Hi there, by the end of this video, you should be able to distinguish between four types of interdependent team designs. There are two types of interdependence. The first is task interdependence, which means that individuals depend on each other for access to shared resources. The workflow is designed explicitly for coordinated action among all team members. Additionally, there is result interdependence, meaning that results are measured, rewarded, and communicated with a special emphasis on the collective aspect rather than individual performance. It would be reasonable to have high result interdependence when there is high task interdependence and low result interdependence when task interdependence is low, meaning tasks are predominantly individual. In other words, the degree of result interdependence should align with the degree of task interdependence. As I mentioned before, it's important to emphasize that the interdependencies of tasks and results should go hand in hand. That means when there is high interdependence of both tasks and results, we would have an intensive team-based design. And when there is low interdependence of both tasks and results, we would have a parallel design. There are also intermediate designs. While the four types of designs I will discuss can be thought of as pure types or reference points, there may be a mixture between the previous and the following design. In other words, the actual design may blend the two. Let's examine each of them, starting from the one with the least interaction to the one with the most interaction. The first type is a design where interdependence and interaction occur in parallel. It is represented in this diagram. The gray squares represent the team with different individuals working. Then, input task flows go from red, which is the input, to green. The blue arrows represent how task flows move within the group. Suppose you look at the first design in parallel. In that case, tasks enter the group, or rather enter different individuals within the group, and these individuals process the task and provide the results. Nominally, we are a team, because it is a unit that does things. But each individual within the unit resolves the problems that come to them without needing to interact with other individuals in the unit. It's like any kind of queue. For example, the checkout lanes in a supermarket work in this way. There are multiple checkout lanes and customers, and they approach the lane that is the least busy or has the shortest queue. Each customer performs their tasks independently, except when they have specific questions. They can consult with the supervisor or colleagues, but their tasks are independent and function in that way. Cleaning services can function the same way, and any counter or public-facing service job. Laboratories that perform analysis likely operate similarly, and most call centers also work this way. This is a type of interdependence. Then we have a different kind of interdependence, which is sequential. In this type, the tasks to be performed in a unit or team enter at a specific point, such as a workstation or a particular person, and are passed on to other team members until the task is completed. Usually, once you have finished your task, you pass it on to the next person and do not work on that task, product, service, or flow again. That's why the blue arrows only go in one direction. In the end, we have the team's output or result. This type of interdependence is marked in assembly lines and fast food restaurants, which follow a similar flow. You may also find it in accounting processes or admission processes, where you have to go through distinct stages or services that are simple, stable, and standardized. You could even see this type of interdependence in a hospital emergency department. For instance, when you enter the emergency department, you are attended to at the admission desk, where your data is taken. Then you go to triage, where they roughly assess the severity of your condition. And then you return to the waiting room. After that, a medical professional examines you, and in some cases you may need a medical test. Finally, you return to the medical professional who provides you with a solution. In none of these cases is there a flow up and down. Instead, the patient follows a process where they go through each of these stages, and these stages follow a linear procedure, except for any unique complexity that may arise at any of these points. However, the normal flow works in this way. Then we have a design where the interaction is reciprocal. This design is similar to the previous one, where tasks enter the team at a specific person or workstation and are passed on to different people. However, in this case, there is a back and forth process or flow where several rounds of interaction between individuals may occur. You release something to another person, and it's likely that this thing will come back to you, either directly from that person or because they passed it on to someone else, who then passed it back to them and back to you. This design is still linear, but with a back and forth flow that sometimes creates cycles that can incorporate 1, 2, or 3 stages of the process. This type of interaction is often seen in complex administrative processes, such as defending a doctoral thesis. There may be a proposal from the committee, which the commission evaluates. If they are unsatisfied, it is returned to the director, who makes changes, and then it goes back to the commission for approval. After that, a commission in the doctoral school evaluates it, and it may or may not be returned. If it is returned, it goes back to the thesis supervisor or director for further action. As you can see, there can be back and forth task flows until the task is completed and released at the final point, where the input and output points are defined in the process. This is applicable to all the designs we have seen so far. Finally, we have an intensive interdependence design where different characteristics start to emerge. Firstly, tasks do not enter at a fixed point on a specific person or workstation, but rather they enter the team, and the team addresses, defines, designs, relates, and analyzes the task together. They do all of these tasks, and there is also cross-interaction between all the team members. It is not a sequential process, as one person may talk to another, and then maybe the whole team gathers to analyze the problem. In the end, it is a group product that results from the team's collective effort. This type of teamwork is present in all project teams that function as such. For example, a film shoot could be understood or approached as a project. Software development is a clear example of this type of interaction where users, analysts, programmers, and management or executives may all be involved in solving the problem. It is true that when some projects, such as software development, use a reciprocal or sequential interaction, the result is almost always a failure. The product that comes out of such projects usually does not solve the user's problems or meet the demands of the people requesting the task. Just because we have seen these methods and typical examples, it doesn't mean that some organizations may not choose a unique design to carry out these actions. Changing the type or model of interaction or flow within a team can affect results. I believe that at this point you can differentiate between these 4 styles. I would like to ask your consideration. Do you think it is easier to transition a team's work from in-person to remote when it has a parallel or intensive team design, and why? By answering this question, you can further clarify the differences between the 4 types of designs: parallel, sequential, reciprocal, and intensive.